The Kids at the Mansion, full length. Uncle Mike. Let's talk about the one thing that should have shut this whole industry down a long time ago. The kids, not the club promoters, not the dancers, not the bodyguards, the kids who were never supposed to be there. You ever hear a story so wild, so uncomfortable that your mind just tries to skip past it? That's what happens when people hear Ali Carter speak. Some folks laugh, some get angry, some say, "She crazy." But deep down, everybody feel it, that chill in the back of your spine, that whisper. What is she telling the truth? Ali says she was trafficked, says she got passed around from industry house to industry house, but one place kept showing up. One name, one address, Diddy's mansion. She said it wasn't no regular party. It was ritualistic, rooms with locks on the inside, doors that only opened when somebody pressed a button upstairs. She said they had a system, a cycle, and she was just one of many. Now I know what y'all thinking. That's wild. That's too much. If that was true, somebody would have been arrested. But ask yourself this. If a kid screams in a mansion and everybody inside too rich to care, does anybody even hear it? This ain't no movie, man. This real life. And in real life, the guilty don't always wear handcuffs. Sometimes they wear tailored suits and million-dollar smiles. Now picture this. A 13-year-old girl gets flown out to LA. She thinks she booked for a modeling gig, maybe a TikTok shoot. They send her a contract, tell her a driver's waiting, give her a glam bag, and tell her she's special. She don't even pack a bag, she just bring hope. She walk into that house and everything's glitter. Champagne towers, celebrity voices, some rapper laughing from across the room. It's like Disneyland for grown-ups, except she not grown. She don't even know what the smell in the air is. That haze, that smoke, that fake laughter, it hit different when you young. It feel like a trap before you even know what a trap is. They take her phone, they tell her to smile, they say, "You want to be famous, right?" She don't even answer. She just nods, trying not to cry, because somewhere in the back of her mind, she realizes she ain't going home tonight. Now let's stop here. That's not one girl. That's a pattern. Ali Carter ain't the only one. There were whispers for years before her, back in the bad boy era, back when Biggie was alive. People said, "Don't bring your little cousins to them parties." People said, "They be wilding out with them young girls." But nobody wanted to name names until Ali. And once she did, they called her everything but a child of God. Said she crazy, said she lying, said she wanted clout. But notice something. They never sued her. They never dragged her to court. They just silenced her. Her IG lives get flagged. Her videos get pulled. News pages debunk her with no receipts. You ever seen a lie get covered up that hard? That ain't how they treat clout chasers. That's how they treat threats. And here's what's wild. Diddy has security cameras everywhere. He has security details, staff, chefs, assistants. You telling me not one person saw something? Nah, they saw it, they just knew what it would cost to speak. This ain't about some party going wrong. This is about a machine that's been running for years with silence as the fuel. And the kids, they were the casualties nobody counted. The feds ain't bring this up in court. The judge ain't let no tapes play. But that don't mean it didn't happen. Uncle Mike. So, I'ma leave you with this. If even half of what Ali Carter said is real, then we not talking about a celebrity. We talking about a predator. And predators don't just stop, they evolve. They get better at hiding. They buy more doors, build more rooms, hire more silence. But if just one voice gets loud enough, if just one camera slips through, if one person says, "I was there, Your Highness, I ain't scared no more," then the whole house of cards falls. And this time, there ain't enough money in the world to cover up the truth. The Blackmail Vault, full-length, deeper version. Let me take you to a place that nobody's ever seen, but everybody in the industry knows about. A vault. Not a bank vault, not a safe with jewelry or diamonds. This vault holds something more powerful than money. Secrets. And according to people close to Diddy, allegedly, this man had a habit of recording things. Not interviews, not performances, freak-offs, blackmail. We're talking compromising footage of some of the biggest names in the game. Politicians, executives, rappers, actors, caught doing things they never want the public to see. They say phones were locked up at his parties, right? That's because he had the only cameras, and he controlled every lens. Now imagine this, you're a rapper just coming up, got your first hit. Diddy invites you to a party, VIP treatment, you feel like you made it. Next thing you know, they hand you a drink that hit too strong, a smoke that smelled funny. And before you can blink, you in a room, not quite sure what's happening. The lights low, the music loud, then silence. A red light, recording. You wake up the next day with a headache and no memory. You go back home, try to forget it. But a week later, he calls. And he don't talk about your music, he just says, "Remember that night at the house? Good times, your family now." You feel sick, but you say, "Yes, sir," anyway, because somewhere in that mansion, your life is on tape. Uncle Mike. Now look, I'm not saying this like it's a conspiracy theory. Ask around, even Gene Deal, Diddy's former security, said flat out that parties had freak rooms, cameras, and hidden agendas. Even Jaguar Wright, for all the heat she gets, said there were closets full of tapes. Not just sex tapes, control tapes. She said some of those tapes were used to own people, to keep them loyal, to keep them silent. Why else you think so many artists signed a bad boy and never speak again? Why so many grown men, famous, rich, powerful men, suddenly start acting like background dancers? Uncle Mike. Now imagine this, you're a senator. You go to the party thinking you slick. Just a little taste of Hollywood. You drink, you laugh, you indulge, just one night. Then months later, someone from the team calls you. They ask for a favor, maybe a vote, maybe protection. You hesitate, and then they remind you, "We just want to make sure that little trip to LA don't end up on TMZ." Now you understand the game. It ain't about the music, it's about leverage, power, insurance, and the vault. That's the ultimate insurance policy. You control people long after the party ends, long after the beat fades. Because in this industry, the worst thing isn't being exposed. It's being exposed on camera. So if Diddy really kept those tapes, if that vault is real, then you better believe the feds are thinking about it. Because blackmail ain't just scandal, it's federal crime. Especially if it crosses state lines, especially if people on those tapes were underage, especially if there's proof that he used those tapes to control, coerce, and cover up. Uncle Mike. And here's the craziest part. That vault, it might already be gone, destroyed, hidden, relocated, maybe even handed off to somebody else to protect him if things ever go left. But what if just one hard drive survived? What if a housekeeper found one? What if an assistant kept a backup? What if someone right now is sitting on a USB that could blow the lid off the whole thing? They scared, but they watching. And one day they might say, "Here, look." And just like that, the vault ain't a rumor no more, it's evidence. Section 4, the money don't add up. Let's talk about something nobody seems to ask when the lights are flashing and the yachts are sailing. Where the money coming from? Diddy's out here flying private every week, buying $1 million cars like they lunch trays, and throwing parties that look like Super Bowl halftime shows. But how many hit records he had lately? When the last time he went platinum off music alone, go check the charts. He ain't Drake, he ain't Taylor, he ain't Beyonce. So what's paying for all this? Because I'll tell you this, The math don't add up. Uncle Mike, look, Diddy got business moves, liquor deals, Revolt TV, some real estate maybe. But that don't explain the burn rate, the cash flow. You got artists complaining they never got paid. You got lawsuits saying he ain't paying staff properly. Yet somehow the man got security squads, jets, assistants, drivers, penthouses in multiple cities. And every time you blink, he in another freaky mansion surrounded by people who don't look like they came for music. And then you start wondering, is this really about entertainment? Or is the music just the mask? Now let's break this down. Cassie said she was taking on business trips that had nothing to do with business. She said there were envelopes of cash, suitcases, bundles, unmarked, uncounted, money that didn't move through banks, money that couldn't be taxed. You think that ain't suspicious? The IRS sees that kind of activity, and they don't ask why first. They ask how much. Then they ask where from. That's money laundering territory. That's how they got the big dogs like Al Capone. Not murder, not racketeering, tax fraud. Because dirty money gotta hide. And the bigger your lifestyle, the harder it gets to hide that trail. Now imagine this. You on Diddy's payroll. You drive his cars, book his flights, do the cash errands. You see how the money move. Cash drops in the studio, private jet handlers asking for full stacks, club owners paying in duffel bags. One day you slip up. You get caught with one of those bags. Cops ask you, where's this money from? And you panic. You say, it's for Diddy, it's business. They start asking for paperwork, but there ain't none. Now guess what? You just became a witness, or worse, a co-defendant, Uncle Mike. The feds love paper trails, and the second they see too much cash with no receipts, they come in quiet. They don't knock, they seize. They freeze your assets, audit your people, tap your phones, and if even one of those private account books don't match, it ain't about luxury anymore. It's about fraud. It's about intent to deceive. And that can lead straight to RICO, the kind of charge Diddy already dodged once. But this ain't over, because what Cassie hinted at, what Gene Deal suggested, what old bad boy producers have whispered for years, it points to one thing. This empire might have been built on more than music. So ask yourself, hey, what happens if the feds trace the party money? What if they find connections to offshore accounts? What if they prove that all this flash wasn't backed by legal cash? You think they'll care about hits? You think they'll care about Billboard? Nah, they'll hit them with something way scarier than fame, accountants, because when the money don't add up, the house of cards falls. And nobody, not even Diddy, is bigger than the IRS. Section 5. The secret rooms and silent payoffs. You ever walk into a house and feel like it's hiding something? Not just dust or old memories, but secrets. Now imagine that house is 20,000 square feet, walls thicker than your mama's basement, mirrors you can't see behind, rooms that ain't on the blueprints, doors that blend into the wall like ghosts. That's the vibe people say they got at Diddy's mansions. From LA to Miami, from New York to the islands, every property he touches got that same feeling. Something's going on behind closed doors. And I ain't talking about regular celebrity privacy. I'm talking about construction crews being told to leave certain rooms unfinished, but still wired for sound, cameras facing the inside, locks that only work from the outside, panic rooms maybe. But some say they were containment rooms. For who? And for what? That's the part nobody's saying. Now check this. Gene Deal, the man who guarded Diddy for years, said flat out, there were rooms even he wasn't allowed in. Think about that. You're head of security, and you get told, stay out. What kind of party needs that much control? What kind of man builds rooms just for silence? And who was silenced? Now here's where it gets heavy. Multiple women, not just Cassie, have said they were pressured, coerced, even drugged inside these spaces. They say assistants were trained to look the other way. They say girls were told to sign NDAs before entering, and sometimes they never came back out the same. Now, they ain't say it was always violence. Sometimes it was just filming. Other times it was private conversations that turned into something else. And every time someone came close to speaking out, money moved, checks were cut, vacations were offered, silence was purchased. Now imagine this. You wake up in a house you don't recognize, memory fuzzy, your clothes scattered. You look around and see a red light blinking in the corner. Camera. You panic, you scream, but no one answers. You find your phone, it's dead. You walk to the door, it's locked. Then you hear footsteps and someone calmly says, "Relax. You're part of the family now." You don't know if it's a threat or a promise, but either way, you realize you're not leaving until they say so, Uncle Mike. Now let's talk about the payoff part. Dozens of women, possibly more, received settlements. That's public record. But here's what ain't public. How many people never got a chance to speak at all? How many families were bought off before lawyers ever got called? How many careers were ended quietly in exchange for a deposit and a signature? Some of these people didn't even want money. They wanted justice. They wanted accountability. But when they realized who they were up against, the lawyers, the influence, the threats, they took the deal. Because fighting Diddy doesn't just mean fighting a man, it means fighting an institution. And the rooms, they still exist. Maybe repainted, maybe emptied. But the blueprints are still there. And if even one contractor flips, if even one assistant grows a conscience, if even one woman finds the strength to go public with names, timestamps, photos, layouts, those secret rooms, they turn into crime scenes. And all them NDAs null and void. Because silence bought with fear ain't real silence, it's suppression. And suppression, that's what feds love to dig up. Because when you hide your sins in rooms behind rooms, the walls remember. The victims remember, and sooner or later, somebody talks. Bonus video, Kim Porter, the book that never dropped. A lot of people say they loved her, but not enough people talk about how she was about to tell it all. Kim Porter wasn't just some model or baby mama. She was the woman who watched Diddy from the inside, from the shadows, for over a decade. She was there through the music, the money, the madness, and the moments you'll never find in a headline. She knew the man behind the mogul, and toward the end of her life, she started talking. Friends say she was working on something, a book, a project, maybe just notes at first, journal entries, therapy confessions, but it wasn't just her venting, it was receipts, names, dates, rooms. She told people she was ready to share her side. And suddenly, she got sick, real quick, gone before the world ever heard page one. The official report says lobar pneumonia. No drugs, no violence, no foul play, just natural causes. But let me ask you, Kim was 47, active, healthy, a mother of 4, living in one of the most high-profile homes in LA. And yet she gets hit with a rare aggressive respiratory infection and dies within days. No red flags. Let's walk this out. A week before she died, she told people she wasn't feeling right, not just flu symptoms, but off. Like something didn't sit right in her body. She canceled meetings, stopped responding to people, and then silence. By the time help was called, it was too late. Paramedics said she was already gone. No last phone call, no hospital visit, no second chance, just gone. Now, here's the part that makes your skin crawl. Right after she passed, people said her laptop disappeared. Not misplaced, gone, no backup drives, no iCloud recovery, no screenshots. If she was really writing a book, where is it? If she had evidence, photos, messages, who took them? And why did people close to her go radio silent almost instantly? And it's not just the tech. Her assistant was let go within weeks. Her personal friends stopped talking to the media. And when folks asked questions, they were told to let the family grieve. But what if Kim's death wasn't just a tragedy? What if it was a warning to others? Stay quiet or else. Now let's talk about Diddy. Publicly, he was devastated, called her the love of his life. Through a memorial, posted tributes, spoke about her strength, her beauty, her soul, and I don't doubt he cared for her, but grief doesn't erase questions, and grief doesn't protect you from the truth. Because if Kim really was about to speak, and her death came just as the words were finally forming into chapters, then the truth didn't just die with her, it got erased. I want you to imagine this. You're Kim. You've watched it all for years, the parties, the drugs, the pain behind the smiles. You raise your kids, you protect them from the chaos. And when they're finally old enough, you decide it's time to set the record straight. You don't want to be a victim. You don't want revenge. You just want to speak, to free yourself, to tell your truth. And right before the mic reaches your lips, your silence, they say dead women can't speak. But Kim, she left a mark. And the whispers, they've only gotten louder because you can bury a body, but you can't bury suspicion. You can burn a laptop, but you can't burn memory. And if even one friend, one backup file, one forgotten page surfaces, that book might still be written by the people she inspired, by the women she stood beside, by the stories she held in her chest until it burst. So yeah, Kim ain't here no more, but she ain't gone either. She lives in every unanswered question, in every woman afraid to speak, in every page that never got printed. They called it pneumonia, but to us, it felt like a cover-up. And when the truth finally comes out, her name, her word, her story will be the spark that brings the fire.